Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey doesn't just adapt Homer's epic, it excavates it. Working from Emily Wilson's celebrated modern translation and shooting almost entirely with practical effects across 5 countries, Nolan strips the sword and sandal genre of its usual pageantry and rebuilds it as something closer to a war film about coming home. Odysseus isn't a swaggering hero, he's a haunted man. And the film's mythology, gods, monsters, storms, is staged with just enough ambiguity that you're never sure if you're watching divine intervention or a broken man's guilt made visible. It's a big swing, big budget epic that still insists on being personal. That combination didn't arrive from nowhere. It's the latest link in a genre that's been rebuilding and regrounding itself decade by decade since Hollywood first figured out how to put the gods on screen at all.
Who's looking after your wife and son?
Do you see?
My dad is coming home.
Bringing vengeance.
Every modern telling of Greek myth on film owes something to one man's monsters. Before CGI could conjure gods and creatures out of nothing, one filmmaker had to build them by hand, frame by frame, and make audiences believe in them anyway. Nolan has said as much directly, naming this filmmaker as a formative influence on how he wanted the Odyssey to feel. The work in question is the last thing its creator ever made, a swan song for an entire way of building myth on screen.
Clash of the Titans is Ray Harryhausen's final film, and it plays like a culmination of everything he'd spent 3 decades perfecting. Perseus' battle with Medusa, the Kraken's rise from the sea, the mechanical Al Bubo trailing along for comic relief. None of it is photo-real by today's standards, and none of it needs to be. The stop motion has weight, it has hesitation and menace built into every frame, because Harryhausen animated it by hand, one exposure at a time over an 18-month post-production process. That tactile, handmade quality is exactly what Nolan has cited as an inspiration for his own approach. Build the myth physically, in camera, and let the seams show a little, because the seams are what make it feel real.
The film's Greek gods are played by a cast of British theatrical royalty. Laurence Olivier Zeus looks down from an Olympus built on real physical sets. And that grounded, tactile sense of divinity looking down on doomed mortals is a through line Nolan's Odysseus would recognize instantly. Not every genre epic needs monsters to earn its scale. Sometimes scale comes from mud, blood, and the sheer stubbornness of shooting something enormous without shortcuts. By the mid-1990s, the sword and sandal spectacle had gone quiet, and it took a film about a very different kind of ancient world to prove audiences still wanted stories this big, staged this seriously. Braveheart isn't Greek myth, but it's built from the same genre instincts Nolan leans on. Real armies, real mud, real weather, and a filmmaker willing to stage enormous battle sequences with practical choreography instead of digital shortcuts. Its influence on the genre wasn't a single-sided moment, it's structural. The film proved that a 3-hour historical epic, shot with unglamorous grit rather than polish, could still be a massive commercial and award success, and it reopened the door for the kind of large canvas, grounded epic filmmaking that had gone dormant. What Nolan's Odyssey borrows from this lineage isn't the specific history, it's the conviction that spectacle earns more trust when it's dirty, physical, and a little exhausting to watch. Homecoming and Sacrifice sit at the emotional center of both films, and both trust their audiences to sit with grief, rather than rushing past it toward the next battle. Eventually, the genre came back around to the source material itself. 2 decades after Clash of the Titans, a studio finally attempted a direct, large-scale adaptation of the same war cycle Nolan would return to 20 years later, stripped, this time, of its gods entirely.
Troy took Homer's war and rebuilt it as pure human drama. No Olympus, no divine intervention, just soldiers, kings, and the political machinery that grinds them up. It's the most direct predecessor the Odyssey has. The same story world, the same push toward a demythologized, historically plausible ancient Greece, and the same ensemble-scale ambition with a cast of prestige actors anchoring a production built for maximum spectacle. Critics were split on whether stripping out the gods robbed the story of meaning, but the commercial success proved there was still a mainstream appetite for Homer done at blockbuster scale.
Nolan's film picks up that same demythologizing instinct and pushes it further, keeping the gods, but keeping them ambiguous, letting the audience wonder whether Poseidon's storms are divine wrath or just bad luck. It's the conversation Troy started, continued from the other side of the argument.
By the 2010s, practical spectacle had become almost a lost art, an increasingly rare choice in a blockbuster landscape built on digital compositing. One film went the opposite direction entirely, and in doing so, redefined what an in-camera journey could look like. Mad Max Fury Road is structurally an odyssey, a punishing, continuous journey across hostile terrain, told almost entirely through practical stunt work, real vehicles, and real desert. Its influence on the genre wasn't a quote or a citation, it was a proof of concept. It showed a generation of filmmakers, Nolan very much included, that audiences still respond powerfully to spectacle they can feel is really happening in front of the camera. That the seams Harryhausen left visible in 1981 could still be a virtue, not a limitation, decades into the CGI era.
That commitment to in-camera reality, filmed on location under genuinely dangerous conditions, is a direct ancestor of Nolan's own approach to the Odyssey. 5 countries, minimal green screen, and a crew willing to chase authenticity into genuinely difficult terrain, rather than fake it on a soundstage.
Which brings the lineage to now, to a moment where large format, practically forward mythic filmmaking has become rare enough that when someone commits fully to it, the results feel like an event. One recent film set that standard just 2 years before Nolan's own attempt. Dune Part 2 is the closest recent cousin the Odyssey has, a large format, ensemble-scale mythic epic built with a comparable commitment to practical staging, real locations, and a hero's journey that curdles into something darker the longer it goes on. Both films ask a prestige, IMAX-scale blockbuster to also function as a character study of a man being reshaped and warped by the mythology forming around him. And where Dune stops, the Odyssey is already waiting. Nolan's film takes the same appetite for large canvas mythic filmmaking and turns it toward the oldest journey story there is. Proof that the genre's decade-by-decade rebuilding project was headed here all along. 5 decades, one through line. Myth built by hand, grounded in mud and weather and real consequence, again and again, until it arrived here at Nolan's Odyssey.